My name is Dr. Scott Winter, and I'm with the Department of Radiology and Humanities at Hershey Medical Center. The name of this piece is Exposed. I pushed the needle further into her breast, positioned it directly behind her nipple, and injected the local anesthetic, lidocaine. "Ouch," she said. "Sorry, I know that hurts. The pain should fade quickly. You all right?" "Yeah, I'm okay," she replied. "Good," I said, relieved. She was undergoing this preoperative procedure, accompanied by 3 strangers. The technologist handed me a second syringe filled with a radioactive solution. I inserted the needle into the patient's breast. I glanced at her face. "Any pain, ma'am?" I asked as I emptied the syringe. "Not really, just some pressure," she said. "Good, thank God for lidocaine. We're all finished." "That wasn't so bad," she said bravely. My young apprentice and first-year radiology resident, Luke, observed this spectacle. He had never performed the procedure, but he felt confident after watching me make the injections. Luke asked, "Dr. Winter, if we have one of these cases tomorrow, can I do it?" "Yeah, I think you're ready to try one." Luke said, "Looks easy. That's a really simple procedure." Simple procedure. From a physical standpoint, he was right. It was easy. Emotionally, however, it was a complex task. 1 hour after the procedure, the patient would be sent to surgery to have her diseased breast cut off. Luke was healthy and had never suffered the burden of facing his death from a potentially lethal disease. It was naive of him to think that this procedure was simple. I failed to say anything in response. The following day, we had one procedure on the schedule. Luke knocked on the door and led the way into the examination room. He accurately described the procedure to the patient and obtained informed consent. He asked whether she had any questions. She had no questions. She was silent. Luke put on his sterile gloves and picked up a syringe containing lidocaine. "Okay, ma'am, here comes a little stick and burn," he warned. She stared at the ceiling and said nothing. The needle pierced her breast, and she suddenly began to sob and moan in pain. Her body and breast shook. Her muscles tightened. Her voice ached. "It's all right, ma'am. Lidocaine will ease the pain," Luke said. As her wailing intensified, Luke stood motionless. He said nothing. His eyes were fixed on his hands holding the needle, which remained buried in her breast. He was incapacitated. I stood at the patient's feet. Her outcry stunned me and was horribly familiar. For a brief moment, a younger man within me surfaced and felt threatened and fearful. In my youth, I learned to become emotionally numb in the face of a woman's anxiety and dread. Looking at the statue of Luke's profile above her trembling body, I felt absolutely nothing. I thought nothing. I said nothing. A few seconds later, the room came back into focus, and my mind returned to the present moment. I reached forward and placed my hand gently on the patient's foot. She lifted her head and looked directly into my eyes. "Are you sad?" I asked. "Yes," she cried out. "I'm sorry you're sad," I whispered. We continued to stare at each other, both searching for relief from fear and pain. Something changed. She sighed, laid her head back, and quieted. Still holding her foot, I looked at Luke. He gazed back at me, wide-eyed, searching for guidance. I reassured him and instructed him to complete the simple procedure, which he did without difficulty. Luke taped a small cotton ball over the puncture site in her breast. The technologist pushed the patient's body under the camera. Luke and I walked into the hallway. I asked, "Hey, Luke, what were you thinking while she was crying?" He replied, "I forgot to shave this morning. I looked scruffy. I was embarrassed.